You killed my lover. When this mission is over, I will kill you. I don't normally like hitting women, but it had to be done. You were asking for it. For that, I will kill you. No, you're not. You're right. You've still got 10 more films before the reboot. Oh, no, you don't. You're not going to get the last shot of this sketch. Not after what you just did. Smug prick. And yes, my accent is all over the place. Deal with it. Oh, fucking bastard.
Nobody does it better. Makes me feel sad for the rest. Nobody does it half as good as you. Baby, you're the best.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to my review of the James Bond film The Spy Who Loved Me, the 10th 007 adventure. And I'm doing it downstairs today because in just over an hour's time I should say, they should be announcing the title and all the details for Bond 25. So I'll be recording a video for that on my normal channel, like my main channel, within a few hours an hour or two's time. And yeah, so I'll be reviewing The Spy Who Loved Me and the Doctor Who story Planet of the Spines, which should have gone up by now, but I'll be filming it afterwards. I'll be doing those down here. So, The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this film, or at least I wasn't until rewatching it. I mean, I'm not going to praise it as one of the best Bond films like most people do. I do like it. But I find it to be the most overrated Bond film in the entire series, even more than Goldfinger. I am rewatching Goldfinger the last time. I thought that was a great film and deserves the 10 out of 10. Same for From Russia with Love, but with a 9 because it didn't 100% gel. But for all the production troubles, it was worthy of that 9. And Majesty's, that one deserved the 10. And well, Casino Royale, I've enjoyed that one more and more as I've watched it, so expect a 10 for that one, I expect. Or at least a very high 9. But The Spy Who Loved Me, I'm not the biggest... Just taking this for air. It's not the biggest... I'm not the biggest fan. I like it, but I'm not loving it. Okay, the plot sees Bond and a Russian agent, Anya, having to find this microfilm that will eventually lead them to Carl Stromberg, who's kidnapped the submarines to try and use their nuclear weapons to destroy New York and Moscow, creating a world war probably. And so Bond has to stop him. Anya gets captured though. Yeah, I mean, Anya is a good Bond girl, but I think Barbara Bach does a bit of a wooden performance in some places. Like Calvin Dyson said, she's a bit wooden. There are some places where Bach is good, but there's a couple places where she's just stone-faced, and I don't buy her accent. I think they've done Russian and Eastern European and West Asian, as in the countries that were formerly Russian. Now they're in countries like Georgia, etc., or Turkey or something. Well, Turkey was its own one, of course. But with Anya, I just don't quite buy it. And I think Bach does try, but she doesn't quite have the hang of it. But she does an okay job. On the other hand, Roger Moore, he's finally got the groove for Bond. No more trying to be like Sean Connery. He's got his groove. He is definitely James Bond. He's got the performance from Live and Let Die, but he's confident in the role, and he's pretty much improved it, and it's pretty much his own by now. So that's good, and we'll be able to see this going forward with his following 4 films. I also think we've also got some great performances from the supporting characters. Desmond Llewellyn is great as Q. What's his name? Bernard Lee. I almost forgot for a minute. As M, they're great. Moneypenny only gets a few scenes, but Lois Maxwell does a good job with what she's got. And Walter Gotell, who played the villain in From Russia of Love, he's back as General Gogol. Well, he's here as General Gogol, and he's going to become a regular ally / reoccurring character in the next couple of films up to Living Daylights. Same with Frederick Gray, who's the actor I can't remember. I'm going to look it up quickly. But he, again, same number of films as Gogol, but not as much involvement. More involvement in some places and not as much in others. But he does a good job in the few scenes he gets. Let's see. Jeffrey Keane. And also, fun fact, Robert Brown appears in this film as Admiral Hargreaves, who, well, he doesn't play a huge amount in playing the film, but he does get a scene in the first hour after the pre-titles. After the titles, he gets a scene, and he's good, and he will go on to play M in Octopussy through to License to Kill. Whether this is the same M as Bernard Lee, or whether it's another character, is unclear. Me and Calvin Dyson and maybe a few other people like to think he's Admiral Hargreaves in this film, and then he's promoted to M in Octopussy. And Richard Kiel is great as Jaws. And I think Caroline Munro does okay as Naomi, but the one person besides Back who just can't give a good performance is Kurt Jurgis as Stromberg. I mean, Stromberg isn't a very good character. He's probably the weakest Bond villain, at least so far. I mean, there's a couple more that are coming up, like one from Through Eyes Only, and I know a lot of people hate the Toby Stevens Gustav Grave villain from Die Another Day, and let's not get started on Quantum of Solace's villains until we get to that review. And also Living Daylights' his villains, that's the one dropped back for that film. An argument could be made for Octopussy. But for me, Stromberg just is the weakest villain, at least at this point in the series. In the first 10 films, he is the weakest of the villains so far. Fun fact, they were going to have Blofeld back, but because of the legal trouble with Kevin McClure and how the rights for Blofeld were going back to him after Eon's uses of the films and how that was expiring, then they weren't able to use him, otherwise they'd be sued, etc. So, because of that, they couldn't use Blofeld, so instead they decided to create a new villain, and he just sucks. He's not that great, he's not that interesting. The idea of him being wanting to put the Earth underwater, it's a good idea, but I just don't think the character is executed well, and I don't think Gurgis does that very good of a performance. He's okay in some places, he does try, but he's not very good. And the way he's killed, that is just silly. The gun is put in through... He has this gun underneath his dinner table that he tries to shoot Bond at after dropping into the shark tank. Doesn't work, he has a shark tank. And so he tries to shoot Bond with this bolt gun under the table. He fails at that, and then Bond puts his gun through the barrel and shoots him in the groin about 2 times. How it doesn't affect the handle at the top, I don't know. And then, for good measure, Bond shoots him in the chest 2 times, and he just slumps down against his plate in the table and just dies. Worst villain death in the series. Even if there's a villain or villains who are worse than Stromberg coming up later, or maybe even behind, we'll have to have a look at that at a later point. But even if there's worse villains, this is easily the worst villain death. yeah, when it comes to Spy Who Loved Me, the villain is easily the weakest point of the film. I think maybe it's doing what the Disney films were doing when they were. Well, what Disney films are doing now is when they're putting more character development on the heroes and the protagonists. When there's more development on that, the villains get sidelined. They don't have quite as much development. And yeah, I think that's the problem that's happened here, because Bond and Anya are having quite a few great scenes where the romance is building. Stromberg's character isn't well working. Had it been Blofeld, I think it wouldn't have been too bad, because Blofeld's already been established in the past couple of films, minus the last two. But with a brand new character, you've got to expand on them, and I don't think they quite do it with Stromberg. And I also have to say, why does every fucking henchman in this film shove people? I can't get it. I mean, there's a lot of Bond films, and there's a couple of Doctor Who episodes, and a couple of other films or TV shows where you've got henchmen for the villain, and they push or shove their prisoners, usually the Allies. And this also goes to police series and films and series set in prisons. But I'm mostly talking about henchmen of a villain at the moment. So, but why the hell do they have to fucking push all the time? There is several pushing scenes, several scenes where henchmen shove Bond and Anya, and I was getting pissed at a couple of them. I was saying, stop pushing! Stop pushing! Stop fucking pushing! I've just had to let that out. I just got really annoyed at some of those pushing bits. Just after Bond and Anya had gotten onto the Lepraris and being brought up to Stromberg, push, push, push every other second. It's something that bugs me personally. I just wanted to get that out there, but my goodness, did I get pissed off. There's at least four times where I had to shout it out when I was watching the film. And I've just watched it, basically, or more or less, not long, just afterwards. But I will say, I'll wrap up on the cast. Shane Rimmer does a great job as the American captain, and the British captain also has a few good scenes as well. Shame we didn't get a Russian captain helping out as well, but oh well. The sets are amazing. You had some great set pieces and great locations as well, but those sets in the Lepraris and on Atlantis and the submarine, they just look great, and a couple of other places on location in the locations. And the locations look really good. Lewis Gilbert, once again, the cinematography in his films just look really good. I mean, maybe it's just the fact that this is the special edition DVD, or at least a re-release of the special edition DVD, where it's all updated and it looks really good, whilst most of the ones I have prior to Daniel Craig are on the special edition DVD, with only a couple of Ultimate Edition DVDs and Blu-rays prior to Daniel Craig's films. So, yeah, when I first saw the film back in 2013, I saw the film first time in May 2013, it's nearly 6 years ago. When I first saw the scene where Bond was arriving at the Navy base or ship or wherever, helicopter now going over, he was in one of those. And it's because of that helicopter that I just now had to shut the door. I can still hear it. Okay, but anyway, when I first saw that scene back in May 2013, I thought, wow, that shot does not look like it was filmed in the late 70s, it looks like it was filmed in the late 90s, like Tomorrow Never Dies was. So, I guess that maybe it's due to these Ultimate Edition, all the fixing up stuff. But I also put it down to awesome cinematography by Lewis Gilbert and his team, who previously did amazing cinematography in You Only Live Twice, and probably will again in Moonraker. They also do some really great scenes underwater. They look really great, and the action underwater, it's a massive improvement over Thunderball, which was just slow, draggy, went on far too long. This time round, underwater sequences, fine. Perfect even. The underwater battle scene in the middle of the film feels fine. It's just with the car, submersible car, which is easier to believe and like than an invisible car by the sounds of quite a few fans, they really hate Invisible Cars, but they love the underwater one. Somehow, that's a thing as opposed to both hate or both love or whatever. I mean, no, there's got to be a difference somewhere, but it seems that some people find it more difficult to believe an invisible car than a submersible one. Yeah, personally, I'm fine with both of them. I mean, maybe the invisible one is going a little bit too far, but the submersible one isn't too far behind in terms of realism. So, I don't know, maybe the invisible one's just too sci-fi anyway, but the submersible one is not as much. Top Gear even tried the challenge where they tried to have both cars, see if they both worked, and they sort of did, but not for long. Certainly with the underwater one, they succeeded for about a couple minutes, and then they had to get it out when it started leaking. Whilst the invisible one, it was a bit trickier. They might have been a little less successful there. It's been a while since I've seen the Bond car Top Gear special. But the underwater sequences with the submersible car, they're all great. They've got some great stuff. Although how the villains know they're right there and get out straight away, bit questionable. But I'm okay with that. It would have been better to know how, but oh well. And the stuff beforehand is pretty good with them on the land, the car chase and the helicopter shooting them. That's all great, and we've got great stuff on the train, although why they're on the train in the first place, I don't know, and how Jaws is there, I don't know. Some things don't quite make sense, but oh well. Although Jaws manages to survive whilst Teehee didn't, and the same with Mr. Hinks if he's coming back in Bond 25. We're going to find out later if he is, or maybe it'll be announced later on in the year. But if he is coming back for Bond 25, then he somehow escapes that scene in Spectre. If he's not coming back, then we could probably presume he's dead. I'll let you know in the Bond 25 information video on the main channel. So, and on to my final piece of the film, the music. The music, I used to not really like the music, apart from a couple of bits. I thought Melvin Hamish might have been my second least favourite Bond film composer of the official series, after Monty Norman of Dr. No. But after this, I think he's got some great scores. I'm not gonna praise him as much as I would with John Barry, David Arnold, Thomas Newman, Bill Conti, who does Fear Eyes Only, George Martin on Live and Let Die, Michael Kamen on License to Kill. I think I might put him above Eric Serra, who did GoldenEye, but I think that's the only person I would put over. I would put him over besides Monty Norman. Yeah, I think with Hamish and Serra, they both have a couple of good scores and a couple of not so good scores. With Hamish, I think he has a few more good ones. After rewatching this film, there was some great music. But there's some tracks that he uses from other films. There's a track or two from Lawrence of Arabia, and the Bond theme that he has in the gun barrel sequence. No. I don't know what it is, but that is probably my least favourite gun barrel sequence, at least musically. It's too quick, and the music is also sounding like it's trying to get into the film really quickly. So I'm not sure, maybe that was something on the director, but it would slow down for the next film at least. So yeah, and it's a bit slower and calmer on the other ones, but this one it just felt like it wanted to get into the film quickly. But throughout the film, besides the Lawrence of Arabia music and that one part of the film where the Bond theme is building up, sounding really great, and then it just cuts off. I mean, ties in with Bond cutting off the picture of the camera, but it just feels a bit odd. So maybe it didn't quite line up very well. But some music gripes aside, I think it is a pretty great score. I just wouldn't put him over anybody but Sarah or Norman in terms of great scores, because John Barry does amazing scores for most of the Bond films. Same for David Arnold. Thomas Newman's done some great scores, even though Spectre's was a bit repetitive. Of Skyfall, had some tracks from Skyfall that were a bit repetitive. And I love George Martin, Bond, and Bill Conti scores for their films, and Michael Kamen, I think, does an amazing job as well from his. So that means Hamish can only go up one place from my previous, from where he previously was on my composer ranking. Who we got for Bond 25? I'm not sure. Maybe we'll find out later. I'm not sure. Final couple of things I want to mention. Fantastic stunt with the skis. I loved the ski stuff, and the bit where Bond opens the parachute after he's sliding off the cliff, and that's an amazing, famous scene. That's really cool. And the titles, it's starting to get a bit repetitive. Maurice Binder, he's not really mixing them up as much, but Roger Moore does appear in them, and it's the first time Bond actually does appear besides a picture, stock footage of Sean Connery, and some guy in a running, silhouetted, making it look like that's supposed to be Lazenby's Bond. Probably not Lazenby himself, it's supposed to be looking like that. But here it's the first time we see Roger Moore in the title sequence, and he is in every title sequence from this point onwards in one way or another. In Moonraker, he has a picture of himself with his parachutes looking down. That's a picture. For Your Eyes Only, he's in that a few times as well, properly. Octopussy, there's a scene with him, a picture of him holding the gun, and some arms go around him. And then A View to a Kill, it has a mix of him popping up in some places. By the looks of it, possibly from some of it might be stock footage from this film's ones. Anyway, so yeah, but the title song is also really good. Nobody Does It Better. Great song. The titles is getting a bit repetitive, as I mentioned, despite the inclusion of Roger Moore, but it is getting a bit inclusion. And I have to say, from this point onwards, the film has a bit more nudity than some of the previous ones. They're starting to show a little bit more, especially in these titles. And a few bits with Anya, there's a couple of nudity bits. So I'm actually surprised the BBFC didn't give this one a 12 when they re-rated it in 2012 for the Bond 50 Blu-ray or DVD box set. Diamonds Are Forever is the only License to Kill film to be raised from PG to 12, unless it has 12 rated extras like on A View to a Kill. So, yeah, I'm surprised this film didn't raise to 12 due to the nudity. But maybe they thought it was okay for PG. So yeah, and I have to mention a bit of the film I didn't like was the whole Bond kills Anya's boyfriend. I don't think we needed that. I think it's fine that they were just being from Britain and Russia, being opposite numbers until they have to team up. I think that would have been enough conflict. I don't think they needed to have Bond killing Anya's boyfriend and have her going, when this mission is over, I will kill you. And then kind of being a bit hostile to each other. In that, for a little bit in the second half. And then when Bond rescues Anya in the end, and she's about to kill him, but she actually shoots the top of the champagne, and she basically starts kissing him. So all of that was pointless then. By the end, she's just going to be back in love with him, and she's going to let him live to be in the next 10 films. In the first era of the series, in the first 5 actors eras of the series, the first timeline. So, yeah, we're about halfway through the first timeline, by the way, and nearly halfway through overall. So, Spy Who Loved Me. I'm not the biggest fan of this film, but, you know, it's not bad. I'm not going to rant about it. I'm not going to bash it all over like I would with... I think I nearly did with The Man with the Golden Gun. But it's certainly not an amazing film, and, yeah, I think it could have been a bit stronger, but it's still good. So I'm going to give The Spy Who Loved Me 8 out of 10.
Like heaven above me, the spy who loved me is keeping all my secrets safe tonight, and nobody does it better.
Yeah, it's a bit lower than most people give it, isn't it? Or maybe higher than some others, but you know what, Spy Who Loved Me, it's good, it's fun. It's got some good, great stuff. The character development is actually really good. And I think there was just some stuff that just wasn't needed. That could have not been included. But you know what? Spy Who Loved Me does a good job. Same may not be said for the next Bond film, Moonraker, which is basically The Spy Who Loves Me in space. And swap out Bond killing Bond girl's boyfriend subplot but you know, it's got the blueprints from The Spy Who Loved Me and just made to go into space. It's written by Christopher Wood, who co-wrote the screenplay for Spy Who Loves Me with Richard Milbaum, so you can tell he's basically copying and pasting, and it's directed by Lewis Gilbert, and both of them are very similar to his first Bond film, You Know Twice. But if that means we'll get great cinematography, then okay, fair enough. And honestly, I have to say the space stuff is the more interesting part of the film, so yeah, as silly as it is, it's the most interesting and fun stuff. But more on that next time, Moonraker. So thank you for watching my review of The Spy Who Loved Me. Next time, Moonraker, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. But I'm just doing something. But he does a good job, but no, that's wrong. And the way he's killed, my goodness, that is just annoying. Sorry. What's wrong? I first fucking hell! And I'm getting notifications that I don't care about. Shut up. As for the music, oh, I haven't finished talking about the underwater bit yet. I'm going to put this back on the shelf now. Do that again. You killed my lover. When this mission is over. Do it again. Fucking bastard!